Pleasant good evening to you, our listeners and our viewers throughout the region, here at home and further afield. Welcome to another edition of Just the Facts. And as usual, before we get started, I would want to ask one of our guests to invoke God's presence before we begin.
Father God, we want to thank you for the opportunity to speak about a profession that is not only dear to our hearts, but important to our community. As we have tonight's discussion, let our words and our thoughts be guided by you, that it is interpreted by the public accurately and for the good of the community. Once again, thank you for the opportunity. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you very much, Nurse. As usual, this program basically is about dissemination of information, informing the general public of what is taking place in Anguilla in the various sectors as we go along. We want to educate, we want to inform the general public. Week in and week out, we have different guests, experts in their field and in their training. This evening, we have with us Nurse Twyla Bradshaw-Richardson, who is the Chief Nursing Officer in Anguilla, and we have Nurse Alicia Haywood, who is the Director of Nursing Services here in Anguilla. Nurses, welcome to Just the Facts.
Good evening.
This month, the month of May, is Nurses Month.
Yes.
This week is Nurses Week. Mm-hmm. And today is the International Nurses Day. Yeah. Before we get into that, let me say how pleased I was to have attended a church service. I think it was
May 10th.
two Saturdays ago. Yeah. It was a wonderful service. The message was applicable and to the occasion. The turnout was great. Again, for the general public, when it comes to healthcare, there's no debate about the foundation and who are the stalwarts in terms of healthcare. I want to go back several decades and my own experience with nurses and at the old Cottage Hospital, which no longer exists. Mrs. Haywood would have started way back then as a young, probably teenager.
Was, yeah.
At that time.
17.
And that was quite a long time ago. Me, myself, I didn't have any, colored hair, facial, or on the head. So that could tell you, how long that ago that was, probably in the 80s,
wow,
late 70s, and so on and so forth. Again, must be a passion for that duration of services to the people of Anguilla. Well trained. You would have been trained, I believe, in the UK as well. You did some work there.
I did my master's in the UK.
Right. Yeah. Give the public a view in terms of your ascension, I should say, from the humble beginnings of the old Cottage Hospital to be the director of nursing services.
Okay, so as I was telling my colleague, I would have passed through just about every area of nursing before I arrived here. I started out, as you would have mentioned, as an aide at the cottage in my late teens, and then I went off to Barbados, where I was trained as a registered nurse and a midwife. Came back, worked for a bit, went off and did pediatric nursing in Jamaica, and they came back, then went back and did nursing administration at UWI Jamaica, and then when I came back, well, before I left, I was actually the ward manager, and later on, went to England for 2 years where I did my master's. I came back and I was the departmental manager, and eventually, almost 7 years ago, I was appointed as Director of Nursing Services.
Yeah. Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
And that truly has been moving up the ladder, so to speak. Very, very impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, and amply qualified for the position that you now hold.
Yeah.
Mrs. Bradshaw-Richardson, your ascension.
Yeah. I started in health, not necessarily, I didn't start in nursing. I started as a receptionist, temporary receptionist for 2 weeks at the hospital and then never left. Because after that 2 weeks was up, I was transferred to medical records again for temporary. And then I finally got a permanent job on the ward as the ward clerk. And so I got billing clerk first and then ward clerk. And while I was on the ward working as a ward clerk, the nurses used to ask for assistance, like, help us empty this, carry this to the pharmacy. And I started falling in love with nursing. So nursing wasn't my ideal path. But being around the nurses and being in the patient care setting, I fell in love with it. And so when the opportunity came to apply to be a nurse's aide, I took it. And I worked for a nurse's aide for less than a year because I really loved the job. And I'm like, I need to do more than where I'm at. So I went off to Antigua and I did my general nursing. And I came back. While there, and if you know I was setting, again, I always wanted to do more. So even though the registered nurse could have functioned, if you weren't a midwife at that time, you're still very limited in our setting. So I went back roughly nearly 2 years after, and I went and did my midwifery. And I functioned as a registered nurse midwife for years. And there were a lot of things that I wanted to advocate for and change for and realize even though I couldn't make a difference where I'm at, I needed a wider volume of knowledge. So I did my master's in public administration. And when I did my master's in public administration, I started to look around to see, and then the opportunity came up at the Ministry in Chronic Diseases. So I went there. And the persons I work with would tell you, I like chronic diseases, but like, I need to get into nursing. I need to get back into nursing. I used to go to the hospital and do extra shifts because I so wanted to still be nursing. So when the opportunity arose for the chief nursing officer, I grabbed that. I was like, I need to apply for that. This is where I want to be. I am just barely a year into the post, but as I say, I have self-actualized because this is where I want to be. I am currently pursuing my master's. I'm now just handling my dissertation for nursing education as well because I really do see one of our needs is workforce development.
Right.
And I really do think we need to aspire to get in a nursing school in Angola.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we're going to talk about that a little later as well. But I want to go back to the pathway for both of you all. It seemed as if though doing the general nursing and RN and then midwifery, that was the way in order to move up the chain at that particular point in time. Things have evolved and they've changed now. Each of those areas are specialty areas, so to speak. And I'm sure that during the course of your training, you all would have done quite a bit in pediatrics and elderly care and so on and so forth. Now everything has become, specialized, specialty, midwifery and, RNs and BSN and so on and so forth. You spoke about nursing education. A lot of people in the community, quite a number of them, really don't understand what let's say a RN or BSN in nursing is. So, again, shed a little light on that.
The differentiations with the different pathways in nursing is really scope of practice. So before times, nurses function under apprenticeship system, whereas you went into a hospital, be trained by those that are there, the formal schooling, they show you the skills. So it was very much skill-based with less theory. That's how we started out in the Caribbean. And they will give you a certificate to say, okay, you're a nurse, you can practice independently. And then schools moved towards a diploma. When they brought the diploma programs in the Caribbean, there was a lot more theory involved, a theory and clinical practice. So it not only allowed you to do clinical skills, but you're allowed to interpret certain levels of data as well. So it was just not only practical, it has a science behind of it. And then, like in the year 2000, thereabout, the BSc program started in other countries before, but within the Caribbean, they realized that, hey, nurses need not only to function as clinical practitioners, but nurses can inform policies, they can drive direction, and therefore they introduce other theoretical components that prepares us to be leaders. And so that transferred into the bachelor program. And now therefore they have phased out diploma programs in most of our schools in the Caribbean, definitely phased it out in the outer world. And so nurses, even at a RN level now, are trained in leadership and management and financial, some financial aspects that they can actually lead and manage things even outside of clinical practice. And that shows the evolution of nursing, because before, when nurses started, it was just anybody with a loving heart and compassion. But now, and that's why Nurses Day is so special, because it has shown that we have evolved. We have evolved that we can sit at policy tables. And our team...
From the Florence Nightingale days.
Our team for this year is our nurses, our future, the economic power of care. And that just tells you the whole transition of nurses now, that other systems, other sectors can, if we do our part, our sectors can rely on us. Because if health falls through, tourism falls through.
In general. And humanity will suffer.
Yeah.
But while we're on that, we may as well go into another area that you mentioned and that I am passionate about. Explain to us what has been happening in terms of the establishment of the Nursing Council as it relates to, let's say, the whole idea of setting up a nursing school in Anguilla and so on, because for me, setting up a nursing school really and truly is on a front burner, but you'll have to put things in place and so on. Explain about the whole setting up of the Nursing Council, the requirements, what is happening in terms of registering with the Nursing Council and so on, and so the importance of it.
So generally, a council is a body that guides professional practice, the standards, and the main idea of having a council is to protect patients and public health, to protect our public. And so that body, the council, they regulate the profession, and they're making sure that we are practicing according to certain standards, not standards just nationally, but standards internationally, in terms of the number of hours of training we have to undertake and continue in education. So in Anguilla, unfortunately, we didn't have a functional council. A law was established in 2014, but it was never enacted. Since getting the position or obtaining the position as Chief Nursing Officer, that was something that not only the government of Anguilla wanted to push and ensure that we have it in place, but it was also a passion of mine, and it was necessary for our future development, especially our workforce development. And we now have a body in place. The chairperson of the council is the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Alicia, and I'm the deputy chair. And we have 7 members, along with a registrar. And what we have currently done so far is to ensure that all nurses on island, and this is not just for the Department of Health Services, it's all practicing nurses in Anguilla. And so we got their qualifications, verify them with other councils, because even though we didn't have our council in Anguilla, and I want to be very clear, our nurses are to be registered by other councils, because somebody have to regulate their practice, right? So that was an understanding. But having our own is essentially gives us national identity for our profession in country. So we have been doing our verification checks, having those checked out. DITES was very instrumental setting up our platform. Actually, Anguilla will be one of the councils that you can apply for licensure and certificate online, because a lot of the other councils are still paper-based with their application. So that is something I'm really excited about.
Well, we should all be excited about that, because at the end of the day, I would love to see that transition over into I guess, the medical council where you can go online and you know, register and so on and so forth. Of course, we are putting together now the Health Professionals Act, which is the one that is there is archaic. You know, so they're working on that now in order to move forward. And you mentioned something very interesting there, is that even though there wasn't an established nursing council per se, previous to the recently established nursing council, you would still liaise with regional bodies to make sure that you know, those standards and practices are in place. The other thing, though, is that I believe it is important, it is a requirement to have a functioning nursing council, nursing body, in order to be able to, let's say, have a licensed nursing school on island, you know, to be able to move forward. Is that, how does that work?
It is the building block, because again, the nursing council, as I say, it is responsible for the accreditation of that level of nursing. Like below the RN level, you can get through with your different community college and your Ministry of Health program, but a program of that standard where you're obtaining a bachelor's degree, in nursing, you have to have a national council on the ground. So even establishing our council is a building block to get to our nursing schools and to formulate those relationships with universities around the world. So it is an exciting period for us. As nurses, we don't advertise ourselves as much, but it's an awesome milestone to even have a functioning nursing council in the country.
So in essence, I mean, you said you don't advertise all the time, but we can publicly say now that in terms of the nursing council, we're putting things in place so that any investor that is out there and would want to come to Angola and establish a nursing school, what a better place. You can't find a better place to be able to study and enjoy our weather, enjoy the hospitals that we have here at the same time studying, you know, here in Angola.
And as one of the smallest islands as well, to be able to have our council online, to compete with some of the other countries, it's a really big step for us as well.
Coming from nurses with the caliber that you all have attained during your careers, and being excited to see that, you know, we've established something that some of the larger islands don't have at the moment. I think that in and of itself, you know, says a whole lot with respect to going forward. So the legislation is there; it is all set up. You know, recently been put in place. The requirements, the standards, you know, working with regional councils and so on. And I get the feeling, nurse, that nursing in and of itself, it's almost like a brotherhood, sisterhood type of thing. When I say brotherhood in terms, because there are a lot of male nurses now in it. During our times, we never, you know, had those. I remember our dear departed Nurse John, you know, was the first male nurse that a lot of us here in Angola.
He had Mr. Nichols for a long time by himself.
But now we got like over 6.
You know, so
about 10 of them.
About 10 of them now.
Oh, okay, good. It's a profession there, you know, that we have to deal with. Let us pivot and go back to the whole International Nurses Day. Tell us a little bit about that, I mean, and the significance of it, because it's an annual, you know, I don't know a whole lot about, you know, the history of the nursing. I know that Florence Nightingale and, you know, that sort of stuff.
Founder of nursing.
Give us a little.
Today is actually her birthday.
Okay.
Yeah, she was born on May 12th. And so therefore her birthday is recognized internationally, and it is Nurses Day. So usually that is when physicians might do something special for their staff.
Okay.
Everybody, you know, they commend the nurses, or they recognize nurses. Some people award nurses for that on that day. But usually it's a big thing internationally. On Nurses Day.
Right.
Yeah. And can I add the significance of Florence to our profession? As I say, nursing existed before Florence, but during the war, Florence was instrumental, because she realized persons were getting care, the soldiers were getting care, but they weren't getting better. And she studied that environment, and she was like, how can people get better in this filthy environment,
Right.
this dark, dusty area? And she opened up windows, allow ventilation. She cleaned the place. And person
Infection
started to
and- yeah.
get better. And so she started to document that caring for people is more than medication. And then when Florence wanted to do nursing, rich people back in that day didn't do nursing. Nursing was for rejects and those other person who had nothing to do. And when you hear someone coming from such a background as this rich family that could study anything and wanted to do nursing, they was like, oh, we got to put some respect on this profession. And so that is the significance of Florence to our profession.
Okay, great. I want you to go. You mentioned that care, nursing care, is not just about medication. What? Repeat that again.
Caring is not about
Caring.
Caring is not about getting better. It's not getting medication and just treating illness. It comes from a love for people, and it's holistic. It's holistic. You have to understand and see. You have to study the people that you actually care for. Study them in terms of, hey, why are you not taking your medication? You're not taking your medication is not because you don't understand your disease. But if I have a choice between taking my medication and buying food for my children, I'm probably going to buy food that children don't take. So as a nurse now, you intervene, you realize, hey, this thing that the doctor ordered is a little bit more costly. So let's give another brand name generic medication.
Right.
That's where nursing comes in.
Yeah,
So
advocating
you
for your
advocate
client.
for your client. So nursing is not just about being a doctor's handmaid. It is about seeing people as people, understanding where they're coming from and intervening. You know, we're educators, we are counselors, and you talked about the camaraderie that we have, but we work in teams, and we are each other's brother's keeper. And those are the things about nursing. You mentioned the nursing service, and the pastor spoke about that.
Yes. you
About
did.
compassion.
Compassion.
About compassion.
That's one of the 6 C's of nursing, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, and nursing comes from
Compassion.
nurture,
Yeah.
nurturing.
Nurturing,
That's the essence of our profession.
Very interesting. And from time to time, you're all human beings. You work long hours. Of course, it takes a toll on you. And there is, again, part of the whole issue of compassion. I've worked several, hospitals around the U.S. and the Caribbean, and those long hours sometimes there's a burnout in terms of short staff, in terms of sort of doubling up on the shifts and so on and so forth, and that is where this whole notion of soft skills training comes into being. Yes, you're a human being and you're stretched to the limit, but the compassion and the nursing professional that you are, at times, will remove away snapping, so to speak. And, there is a program that the Anguilla Community College intend to start next month. Every single member of the Department of Health Services will have to go and deal with it. They will have to go through with it. It is all set up. The invigilators will be the ones who will monitor, how effective the program, after it's completed, is being, getting into the public, so to speak. Because at the end of the day, the Ministry of Health and all of us who are involved in healthcare really and truly want to improve the quality of healthcare in Anguilla. And as you said, quality and caring is not just medication. Quality and caring is not just having the equipment and the wherewithal to perform certain tests. It is more than that. I said in one of the programs earlier this year that when it comes to healthcare, I was once told by a professor that healthcare is 80% psychological and only 20% medicine. And they went on to talk about, the initial contact that you will have, with the patient and the family and so on and so forth. You know, there's a good feeling, so to speak, when you get, as opposed to, you know, those sort of things. So, you know, it's a profession, like you said, you got to be compassionate about it, and you got to be really and truly committed to it. I have seen, you know, youngsters who grew up and really wanted to be nurses. They don't want to do anything else but nursing. They don't want to study medicine. They don't want to study law. You know, they want to be
A nurse.
a nurse. You know, so it is something that you know, we've got to, you know, encourage. We've got to hone. You know, nowhere in the world you have the nurses that are, for the most part, you know, local. Nurses.
They move across.
Yeah, they move across regions, they move across continents, and so on and so forth. And they are always in demand.
Very much
Now,
so.
Yes.
even here.
Yeah.
Now, that will lead me into the other area whereby you will have the challenges in terms of recruiting and retaining nurses and so on. Of course, that will come in terms of the compensation packages, because folks usually look on the other side, and if the grass is greener, you know, you tend to move on, you know.
Yeah.
So is that a
a
challenge here?
It is challenges because it's very competitive. I mean, people, they chase the money. It's not just money, it's also working conditions.
Yeah, okay.
You know, so I mean, I don't find our nurses leave as often as maybe in some other countries. But trying to get them here, it's usually a problem, because I guess the way the salaries are right now as well. Sometimes we reach to the point where they have accepted the offer, but then once they see the salaries, then they might rescind the offer, or sometimes they just decline once they receive the offer. And usually it has something to do with the salaries. Some of the challenges here too is finding accommodation.
And cost of it.
And the cost of the accommodation, because previously we would put them up for a few days and they would be able to get on the ground and find for somewhere. Now they have to do that before they come to Anguilla. And some of them, they just can't be bothered, or they don't know anyone, so they change their mind as well. Then the fact that transportation, we do not have public transportation.
Okay.
So once they get here, some of them can't even drive. So they have to, I guess, they will have to catch a lift with someone until they learn to drive, and then they have to come up with the funds to purchase a vehicle. So that is an expense that I guess they figure, well, they come in here to settle down to try to make some money. But one of the first things they have to do is to purchase a vehicle as well.
Right.
So some of those are the deterrents that they would do their investigation, especially if they have persons on the ground. They can get some information and they decide that they're not coming again.
Well,
And we've
you
been
know,
having quite a few of that over the last 2-3 years.
there is an exercise that is taking place in terms of regrading and increasing salaries, you know, across the civil service, and nurses are civil servants now by being the Department of Health Services brought back after the dismantling of the Health Authority.
Yeah.
And I am on record in cabinet and other places with respect to treating our nurses and our healthcare professionals, right? And then putting them in the grades that they ought to be in, you know, because at the end of the day, you know, while education is very important, don't get me wrong, and you know, we're moving into a realm now where .ai, and you know, you could just ask a question and you get all kinds of answers. Now, it seems like it can direct you to write a paper. You know, you can find out that. At the end of the day, you know, in terms of the education landscape, fine, no issues at all. I'm a full supporter of education because it's one of the only level playing field anywhere in the world, whether you're white, black, blue, you know, green, or indifferent. However, at the end of the day, if you live long enough, you might be able to read, you might get a PhD, but at some point in time, you know, you will have an ailment that will need to be addressed.
Yeah.
And I may sound biased because I'm a healthcare professional, but that is a reality. going forward, So we are working, it should be finalized hopefully within the next few weeks. And I'm still to see where our healthcare professionals are placed in this new scheme of things.
Yeah.
So I have a very keen eye, to make sure that our folks and those who are, providing the quality of healthcare for people here, are placed in the category that they truly deserve.
That's good.
The other thing that I want to talk about is in terms of training. Training for the nurses. You all may have some programs that are ongoing or intend to put in place.
Yeah. Sister Haywood will speak about the training aspect and
Yeah.
will go after training in terms of what we've done over the years, and then I can speak of the new programs.
Well, in terms of training, we are currently looking at having nurses train in intensive care
Right.
nursing, because that is another area in which we are embarking right now. We recognize that the health dynamics in Anguilla is changing. It has changed,
It has
continues to
changed.
change. And we are required now to manage patients who need that one-on-one critical care. So we are looking at having nurses train in that area. We have quite a few nurses who have the skill in that area from overseas. And we are looking at recruiting persons who have formal training in intensive care nursing as well. And we are trying to see if we can have some of our own go off to do intensive care nursing. We are also looking at, dialysis as well, because we are growing in that area.
Oh, yeah.
Accident and emergency department. Usually, in the past, we never really, everybody get the on-the-job training more or less. But now we are looking at expanding in that area as well, upskilling our nurses, have them go off. And it's not a very long training. It ranges between 7 months to a year. They can go off to Jamaica, do a 7-month training, or they can go somewhere else and have it done in a year, maybe a year and a half, depending on the level of training.
And that is when you say 7 months to a year, that is based on the fact that the individual would have already been, let's say, an RN. Would have had that training.
You have to
Right.
be registered nurse.
Right.
Yes.
I think we want to make that clear.
Yeah.
Not for it to seem as if, though, I can get
do
to that
6
level
months.
at 6 months.
No, you have to be.
Right.
You have to have that core training as an RN,
Right.
and then you specialize in any other area. We also have someone who's supposed to be going off this year to do nursing anesthesis, to be a nurse anesthetist, and that has been in the pipeline for quite some time. We couldn't find anyone, but finally we have someone who's going off.
Okay.
And that is actually a 3-year program, a master's program in Jamaica.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. And I know that someone is supposed to be going off to do theater techniques as well.
And theater techniques as well, yeah, because we're
Make sure.
expanding with the orthopedics thing coming on board, and so we are trying to again upskill our nurses in that area.
And there are 2 nurses presently doing the general in Barbados.
Yes.
Yes,
And I think-
we have one in Trinidad.
One in Trinidad.
One in Trinidad.
Yes.
There's one in the UK too.
I am not
Yes,
sure.
but she would have been private though.
Yeah,
She
she's
did
a
not come
private
to
one,
us.
yeah.
Yeah, but there's one in the UK.
There's one in the UK.
There's 3 government ones in the Caribbean and
government.
1 private in the UK,
Yeah.
but all Anguillians.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have the Anguilla Community College Nursing Assistant Program. That's an 18-month program. It is below the level of the registered nurse. And Sister Haywood spoke about the dynamics of the community changing. And so as well, our health profile, you find that persons are getting the chronic diseases younger. And they don't necessarily require hospitalization, but we need to equip our workforce that they can be managing at the home, so that ACC training helps to fill that gap.
Right.
So persons can work with some level of independence in the communities, in private homes, and not necessarily have to be filtered and stay in a residential home. So that's the importance of that program to assist us, because as you know, it's hard to get registered nurses, and we are already at our stretch, so this program helps fills that gap.
Yeah. And one of the things too, even in establishing a nursing school here, some of those folks who would have gone through the Anguilla Community College, that program, is there any way where they can, sort of be registered and do further training? Because I noticed, I think it was last year, some of the folks from the Anguilla Community College were at the hospital, I guess probably doing with blood pressures and those sort of things.
They do internship.
The internship.
Yes,
Oh,
and
okay.
they do have some level of clinical skills
Okay.
that are necessary. So they can give IM medication, and they can do
Okay.
so they can do a first level of the clinical skills. However, one of the students from the ACC program is one of those that are currently in Barbados,
Okay.
doing her general nursing.
Okay.
And we actually hired one in a RNA category at the hospital recently as well.
Okay.
Right?
We have a few of them as assistive nurses.
Assistive nurses.
Yeah,
Right?
like aides and
Well, that's
Yeah.
good.
So it is a good program, and of course now the Department of Health Services won't be able to hire everyone.
Right.
However, again, having them trained allow you to have trained caretakers within the community that persons can utilize. If you look at the Department of Labor, there's a lot of persons being advertised for
Yes.
caretakers. And the risk of having untrained caretakers, sometimes they mean harm, but because they don't know or they
Yeah.
weren't
They're not
trained,
prop trained,
they bring, you know.
Yeah. So you in essence, you would have these trained to a certain level in terms of caretaking, as opposed to someone who will be, let's say,
Love and
a
passion
watch.
only.
Just to, to watch
Just good
the patient.
intention. Yeah, it's not just good intention.
But
Because
that's
simple
good.
things, just as positioning somebody when they're eating,
Right.
can because if you're in a bad position, you're feeding persons, they can aspirate, which means
Yes.
that can go into their lung. We do see admissions with persons aspirating, and sometimes it's poor positioning. So it is important that persons have a certain level of training.
Right.
And a program that we have coming on stream, actually they start Monday, is our Bedside 360.
yeah.
Okay.
Our Bedside 360 is a pilot program. It's
Okay.
a 3-month program. And what it does, we recognize that one of the complaints, because of course you do get complaints, one of the complaints is that persons feel that they don't see the nurses as often at the bedside. Now, as Sister Haywood would speak about, is our limited staff and the stretch of them doing so much. And again, as indicated, the whole clinical decision making, that sometimes the turnaround times at the bedside is not as desired by the patient.
Right.
So we try to see how can we fill that gap. We don't have a workforce audit and survey as yet, but so this is like data collection. It's like a research. So we're going to pilot a program. So these are persons who are not going to be doing clinical skills, but they're going to be provided basic care at the bedside. Stay with the person, probably do a puzzle, wash their hair, clean their nails, those sort of things. For persons,
A companion.
a companion, like a bedside companion. And so that's the program.
And that's important. And I believe that the data collected would point in the direction of the need for it, because at the end of the day, there are some complaints that I was laying in the bed, not a nurse, and the patient and the family themselves don't know whether there's another one with cardiac issues and so on and so forth. And I think it puts a little humanity, a little humane touch to the patient to know, well, okay, I'm being cared for. I need, because you get the complaints. Oh, the call bell ain't ringing, they ain't got no call bell. I'm bawling out calling the nurse, and I can't get a nurse.
And many times the nurses are stretched so thin
Right.
that they're forced to do tasks only. And then we have a computer system now. We have an electronic health record system. So, persons might see the nurses sitting down, they say, oh, they're just sitting there, but they have to enter their stuff, because work not documented is work not done. So they have to document their stuff. So they sit at the computer and they try to enter the stuff as well at the end of the day. So all of that kind of take away their time from being
But I
at the
think that,
bedside.
and what you termed it?
Bedside 360.
Bedside 360.
So around the clock, we're at the bedside. And then Under the former Chief Nursing Officer, Nurse Serene Carter Davis, she started the nursing cadet program. That was a cadet. That was a program of mentorship for young persons interested in health. And during that time, the persons that she had in the program, I know about 5 for sure that are currently either in nursing or some medical field. We are bringing back the nursing cadet program.
Okay, that sounds
And
good.
so that should be started sometime this summer.
Yeah.
And we're going to do it in partnership with the Angola Red Cross. They have a youth group that is focused on health, who's interested in health. So we're going to mentor them specifically we want to mentor them into nursing, but at least in health. And so that is going to, our nursing cadet program is coming back on stream. So we're excited about that as well.
And when you talk about the nursing cadet program, I believe, that we need to, step up our game in terms of getting into, the schools and, explaining what nursing is all about and so on and so forth, and the importance of, of nursing. During my lifetime, I realized that a lot of the nurses, coming up through the system would have been individuals who would have taken care of their grandparents.
Yeah.
And they got
they fell in love.
Yeah, they got this love and the compassion, and it, sort of extend out in general. There was another program, I think it was 1 or 2 individuals who were trained in wound care or something like that.
Oh yes, we had
Yeah.
one nursing assistant, 1 community health aide. They would have gone off to Jamaica for 3 months, about almost 3 months, and they would have done training in foot care, advanced training in foot care.
Okay.
So now we have foot care running in each of the polyclinics. We have at Welch's on a Wednesday morning, at Central on all day Friday, and then at Weston on a Wednesday morning as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just that is specific for foot care or wound in general.
Well, they did foot care.
Okay.
We are looking into
So
having persons trained specifically for wound care.
Right.
But we haven't
Okay.
we haven't done that as yet.
Okay.
But it's something that we are currently working
Yeah,
on.
I think we need to do
Yeah.
that and get a few more of those individuals in terms of foot care, because as you know, diabetics and so on and so
They
forth.
focus on the diabetic
Really and
and
truly, we
stuff.
need to have a closer look at them.
But we are already in conversation with the UK. They are trying to assist us and having persons go off to do training in wound care.
Okay,
So,
great.
we're
So we
looking into that.
need to take that up. You said you're having conversation with the UK. Would they assist us in terms of sponsoring some of those courses? Just opening the door and say, we'll come in and pay for it, We're still a British overseas territory, and at least...
They did mention that we would look at funding as well. So
Okay.
we'll see how that goes.
Okay. I'm impressed. Let us look now at the activities that are going to take place, this week and throughout this month and so on and so forth. I know that there is an awards. It's an awards ceremony, we call it.
Start with the symposium tomorrow.
Okay, well, go ahead and let us know.
You
Let the
gotta
general
tell
public
me,
know.
Mr. Rogers, I could get carried away when I reach till Friday, right? So tomorrow is the symposium. We spoke about migration. The theme of the symposium tomorrow is nurses, money, and migration. Migration and finances has been a big issue for us in nursing. And so we have different persons presenting to the nurses tomorrow at Blue Ridge, and the executive of the Angola Nurses Association is facilitating that. So
And
it's
what
open
time
to
it will
nurses.
start?
It starts
It starts at 8.
9?
At 8 o'clock?
Okay, 8 o'clock.
Okay.
And so that should be interesting. We have different, like Vanessa from Liberty, NCBA. NCBA, we have pension coming in. They're speaking about lands and land ownership, because we want them, persons are interested in staying in Angola, looking at Angola, so we bring in the persons from lands and stuff in. How can you own property in Angola, and is it possible? We have a panel discussion with persons who have migrated and choose to stay overseas, and what was the push factor, or those that return home, what was the pull factor? So it should be an interesting day tomorrow for learning among the nurses as regard to that. Today we had 33 nurses coming over from St. Martin. That was a visit. It was so much fun, so much sharing, some was retired nurses from St. Martin that shared their experiences, how things have changed along the way. And then we end with a fun day and a luncheon at the green space. So that was really good.
Okay, yeah, because I mentioned, the visit from St. Martin. I didn't know what the numbers were, and it was from both French and Dutch. Oh,
It was French
French.
side. Dutch side, sorry.
Dutch
Yeah,
side.
from the
Okay.
Dutch.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
medical
33.
center.
33, yeah.
But some of them are retired. So.
Yeah, well, that's fine. Then nurses.
Yeah. No, because everybody was like, but there are no nurses in St. Martin if you had 33 people over here.
And it was really good because those retired persons have some wealth of knowledge. It was really good. We had some of our retired nurses as well on the green space as well that allowed to dialogue with them. And Friday is our Heart Health Expo. And I'm intentional about saying Heart Health Expo because May is also Cardiovascular Month. And cardiovascular disease is our number one causes of deaths and illnesses. The cardiovascular disease persons. In
Anguilla.
In Anguilla. A lot of persons think that cancer is really alarming, but our number one killer and the reason for hospitalization, our heart attacks, our strokes, our aneurysms, our
Even the diabetes.
yeah, that's horrible. And the data shows that we're making that up, right? So on Friday, what we are doing is not just having a health fair. That's why we call it an expo.
Okay.
It is we bringing you to teach you. So we want you to walk with your blood pressure machines if you have one home. And we're going to demonstrate, you're going to do your own blood pressure check. We make sure that you're checking it accurately because sometimes you're underestimating or overestimating your blood pressure just by how you're checking it. And we're going to check to make sure it's well calibrated and all those things on the ground. We also have the My Care Corner, which is an app on your phone. Person sometimes say, oh, I do my labs and so long they may call me about my labs. You can check on your phone your labs. You don't have to wait on a call. You can actually see your blood results come up. You can see the vital signs we take in the clinic. If you check your pressure home, you can enter into that app. So we ask you to come and sign up. And then you also have a program that we can sign up for as well on Friday, which is if you're uninsured and you have high blood pressure, which is hypertension or diabetes, you can sign up for a free medication program. But you have to come to the grounds and start that pre-registration. Any age group, right, Mr. Raja?
Yeah, that's right. I want you to repeat that again.
Looking straight in the camera. On Friday, the 15th of May, 9 a.m. at Central Polyclinic. If you have diabetes or hypertension, any age, you can come, and you're uninsured, you can come and register with us, and we collect the necessary information and sign you up for the program for free medication, and not only just in the Department of Health Services, but the private pharmacies as well. So that is another important reason to come to the grounds. We're going to have games, and the games are going to teach you how to incorporate exercises in your normal daily life. It's going to reinforce some of the message, teach you how to read hidden salt in your food. You see sugar-free, salt-free, but we're going to actually show you how to spot hidden salt. So it should be exciting that we have some surprises. So 9 a.m., Valley Health Center, Central Polyclinic. However, also 1:30 to 2:30, we're going to have a Zumba session. So we hopefully all personnel in the primary health care.
And the Zumba
is moving because one of the biggest thing with your heart is exercise as well. And we're not only just moving for exercise, but you show how movement can be fun. So it's just having a fun time, and the instructor is going to demonstrate that. So we're going to have that at the ground. We have free massages. We have the mental health unit that is also going to be there. We have the pharmacists. The pharmacists are going to be there. I don't have a list, but you need to come to the ground. Right?
And just to add to that the other two polyclinics will be closed.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
So the nurses, the physicians, everybody
the doctor's
would
going
be
to be there
centered at Central Polyclinic. And of course, we ask if anybody, they're feeling really ill, there's always a hospital that they can attend the accident and emergency.
Well, this seems to be similar, or will be similar to the last Friday, when we had, I think it was the
AgriFest. AgriFest.
where folks were saying, "Well, wait a minute, why one day?" You know, so I was about to say, you know,
Why one day?
one day, you know, and you know, all the clinics are closed. You know, the focus is going to be on the Valley Polyclinic and so on and so forth. Is that enough time, you know, in order to be able to do that? But again, it's not just a health fair, because we're going to continue doing health fairs.
Yes,
throughout
we're going to
the
have the health
Yes.
fairs.
Yeah.
We promise that health fairs are going to be more frequent than
Yes.
in the past. But Friday is about the expo where we have one-on-one time. So you get one-on-one time with the nurse. Again, not she doing the checks, you doing the checks. Let's see how you do them home and walk you through it and other things. Especially the program, the My Care Corner, that is
Right.
essential for everyone to have that app. It helps you to manage your own health, and the program now for your free medication, that is one step towards access and availability.
And that's the way the world is going now.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know, I was away last month. I went to do my a colonoscopy. I haven't done it in 15, 20 years. You know, the app is there. You know, you can go on and see exactly what the results are and so on and so forth. You know, so it's coming. It's getting in there.
Yeah.
Before I go on, I want to go back to what you mentioned in terms of registration. You know, to be absolutely clear, those Angoleans who have been diagnosed with hypertension and diabetes, they are uninsured, because there are a number of individuals who are uninsured. They come out and they
You're
register.
registered.
That program it's a pilot program. It has been sponsored by Friends of Anguilla, genuine Friends of Anguilla, the Sharps family, who are owners of Healthcare Logistics. And the pilot program, they've started with $50,000 US. The red line is at 5,000. When it gets to 5,000, they will replenish it for 12 months so that we can collect the data as to what the cost of the program will be going forward, how many participants or how many patients we have, you know, so that we'll be able to, you know, give them medication, provide medication for them, whether it's at the government pharmacy or the 2 private pharmacies. Again, it's a noble gesture in terms of the contribution that the Sharps, both Gary and Connie, continue to contribute to the overall health care of our people in Anguilla. So come out and register so that we'll be able to have those numbers. Phase 2 of that program, the Sharps will be providing materials, what we call materials, to do your glucose checking. Now you don't have to stick your finger and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
There, you know, and then there is a little, what I call a little gizmo that you can put around your wrist, which will, you know, check your pressure and so on. And again, there are apps where it can be monitored and see, you know, Evans Rogers at, you know, whatever the hour time is, you know, blood pressure was X, Y, and Z, to help us really control. Because as you mentioned earlier, nurse, these non-communicable diseases are taking root now in individuals who are just some teenagers and just outside of teenagers and moving along. So we have a responsibility to be able to take care of those individuals. Now, going further on, as we collect the data and we look at the expense, you know, with respect to the uninsured, even those who are insured, you know, you have a chance to look at it and see exactly what can be done to assist, because I think this is going to go a long way. It will be a game changer as far as I'm concerned in terms of the overall health of our community. Again, it's a lot of work, nurses. It's your week, so I don't want to go off on a tangent and talk all sorts of things about health and what we are doing. But just to say to the general public, I will let you all say it, because you all are the nurses, and it is Nurses Month, Nurses Week, and Nurses Day, to come out on Friday.
So to the general public, I want to say the best gift you can give to us as nurses is to take care of yourself. And because cardiovascular diseases are one of our biggest health concern right now, we encourage you, we urge you to come at the Valley Health Center 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Friday, and we allow us to empower you to take care of yourselves. We are small in number as a profession, but you can help us take care of you. Also, to our nurses, let me wrap up my part one time. To our nurses, we recognize you. We know you're working hard. We know the conditions are not always great, but we are working towards making it better for you in Anguilla. Success is not overnight, but it is consistent, and we are making progress. And we wish we could recognize everyone. We're going to recognize some on Tuesday, the May 26th. And we want to say we appreciate you and Happy Nurses Day.
Okay, and I just want to add to the public, one of the things that I don't think, even as healthcare workers, that we push enough is to drive home the fact that high blood pressure, it impacts the kidneys, you know, and they're silently damaged over time. And we are seeing it a lot in younger persons in the 30s, 40s, and a lot of times it's due to high blood pressure. So that is one of the important things too, why you need to at least get your blood pressure under control. So that is just one message that I want in closing to send to the public. Something we don't talk about enough, the effects of high blood pressure on the kidneys. And to our nurses, I would just like to wish you again Happy Nurses Day. And it's going to be a fun-filled week for the rest of the month, well, the week and the month. And we are here for you, and we are working to improve things for you in Anguilla in terms of working condition, your education, and of course, Mr. Rogers would have mentioned compensation.
Yeah.
So good night, everyone.
Well, in closing, I just want to, to commend you all for the work that you all have been doing. I want to say a shout out and a big thank you to all of the nurses for the work that they have been doing over the years here in Anguilla. Nurse Twyla mentioned that, under some not so user-friendly conditions, so to speak, but at the end of the day, we are working towards that. And your humble servant will do all that is within my power to make sure that the conditions, the working conditions, will improve, and so that you will be able to perform your duties in a much more comfortable, and I should say relaxed environment. There is nothing like having the tools and the environment to be able to perform. At the end of the day, that is what we as a government will have to provide for not only our nursing, but our entire healthcare team. And we will continue to work along. As Nurse Twyla said, it's not going to be overnight, but at the end of the day, when we make baby steps, we will get to the top of the ladder, and that's what we intend to do. So again, thank you to all the nurses and all the healthcare professionals for the work that you've been doing, the commitment, and the compassion that you will have towards your patients. This is Nurses Week, it's Nurses Month, and as the nurses would have mentioned, come out on Friday and be registered and partake in all of the activities that are taking place. Getting your free
Blood
Sugar
pressure
checks.
And we have a raffle going on.
And so on. So thank you all very much. Thank you to the listeners and to the viewing audience for being here with us this evening for yet another episode of Just the Facts. God's willing, next Tuesday, we'll be right back here. Thank you all very much.